We talk quite a bit about people in apartments.
We get a lot of students in apartments, yes.
And apartments and condos are a really big part of life in this area of the world.
Right, yeah. We live in a very congested southern Ontario, and they're building constantly apartments now.
Yeah.
I think it's more common than houses.
Absolutely. Apartments, condos, that whole thing, the whole building structure.
Is going up.
Yeah. All those dogs still need training. So here's the thing. There's often this, I call it a misconception that people in apartments shouldn't have dogs because dogs need room to stretch out and they should have yards, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually wrote an article years ago that I think was pretty well received, but I also took some flack for it. But I think it's really important to note that having a yard and a house does not make a dog's life better. A lot of the times it actually works in reverse of that because it's so easy to just throw them out in the backyard that training isn't as necessary. And then they lead this really small life where their life is basically house when you get home and then out in the yard for fun. Because eventually, you know, if you get a lab and you decide, I'm not going to train it because I've got a yard, eventually going for a walk with that dog is going to be really, really difficult.
Right.
So are you going to persevere and teach the dog skills at that point? Or are you going to go, you know what, I'll just throw him out in the yard. I'm not going to be bothered teaching him skills.
Right.
And that happens a lot with people who have the luxury of a yard. Guess what? In an apartment, you don't have that luxury.
No.
You need to get that dog out daily. You need to train that dog. You need to make sure that you can live with this dog in that apartment situation where they're not being a nuisance to your neighbors by barking constantly.
Right.
They're not, you know, chewing up your apartment and things in it, just like what would be in a house. They know how to hold it going from the apartment building outside. Like all of these things require training.
Right.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with living in an apartment as long as you're aware that makes things more difficult in owning a dog, but necessary to train.
Yes. And I would look for, if I was getting a dog in an apartment too, I'm going to look for breeds that are easier for apartment life too. You know, I wouldn't want to get a hyper alert barking dog.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to look for a dog that isn't known for barking. You know, all dogs bark, and all dogs are going to bark in your apartment building. But some breeds are more predisposed to genetics to bark.
Yes. Yeah, if you have a new puppy that's coming home and you live in an apartment building, take a moment, go and knock on your neighbors' doors before that puppy comes home and say, listen, this is what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. I apologize in advance. Please know that we're not torturing an animal. Because sometimes it sounds really alarming with a puppy crying in a crate. Please know that we're not torturing an animal. Please know that we're working hard on bringing this issue to a close. And, you know, have a conversation with them so it doesn't become this point of pressure between you and your neighbor. And hopefully you have neighbors that are understanding and that you'll be able to return that favor when they do something that might encroach a little bit on
when
your
their
life and
son
your
gets
space.
a drum set.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We're doing a lot of drumming.
Right,
this
yes.
time. Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yeah, puppies make a lot of noise in the crate.
do.
So keep that in mind. If you live in a duplex or an apartment, you know, your neighbors aren't going to be pleased because your puppy's going to be crying in the middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly. You might need to deliver bottles of wine to your immediate neighbors as a please don't hate me for the next couple of days gesture as you get things under control and help the dog get used to being.
Yes. So it requires a bit more planning, getting a puppy in an apartment, but it definitely can be done. And those puppies often are very well socialized. They've seen a lot. They have good training. And the person spends more time with them.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because they got to get them out.
Exactly.